Everyone knows the line, a long time ago the four nations lived together in harmony. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. But how did the Fire Nation come into power, and what ideologies arise when you can control fire? The Fire Nation's rise into a global superpower starts with the rapid industrialization of the nation. Their technology is far beyond any of the other nations, and that leads them to feel like they have a sense of superiority over the rest of the world. During the current times, Fire Nation soldiers refer to earthbending as brutish savagery. They justify the war by saying that the Fire Nation is the world's greatest civilization, and that the war was how they were able to spread that knowledge and influence. But the Fire Nation only wants to spread that influence if they can hold control. To expand the empire of the Fire Nation was Sozin's goal. Firelord Sozin started the 100-Year War by utilizing a comet, a phenomenon that amplified the user's firebending, to attack the air nomads. Space often affects benders, the sun increases a firebender's output, and a solar eclipse gets rid of the firebender's ability. They chose the air nomads since the next avatar in the reincarnation cycle would be a natural airbender, after the death of Avatar Roku, a firebender. They used Sozin's comet, a comet said to make a firebender as strong as 100 suns, to commit an all-out genocide against the air nomads and all of the air nomad temples, wiping out the race. And prior to this attack, the world was seemingly at peace. But from this point onward, the Fire Nation was attacking village after village, hunting down the next avatar and trying to take over the world. Firelord Sozin also started the tradition of firebenders killing dragons to earn glory and esteem. Killing a dragon, the original firebenders, was seen as conquering fire, and doing so would earn you a special title of dragon. Another fun fact about the royal family, Ozai had Ursa, his wife, poison Azulon, his father, and forged the will so that Ozai would become the Fire Lord and not Iroh, who was the firstborn. This plan only came into being after he tried to get Azulon to do it himself while he was alive, but then Azulon told him to kill Zuko, Ozai's firstborn. So the outcome for Azulon was death, and Ozai became Fire Lord. Sucks to suck, I guess. Thanks to book 3, we get a look at the daily life of the Fire Nation school students, and the propaganda that the school system is perpetuating. The teachers look down upon the students from the colonies, despite these colonies now being a part of the Fire Nation, and the school children even have to do a pledge to Fire Lord Ozai. The school is even hiding the fact that Ozai wiped out the air nomads from an ambush, instead saying that it was a battle between the Fire Nation army and the Air Nomads army, even though the Air Nomads didn't have a formal army. Firebending and the culture around it is another thing that helps set the nation above all others. The fighting style the bending technique is based off of is one that uses strong, purposeful movements with the goal of demonstrating power, and we can see this through the importance of the Agni Kai in the Fire Nation culture. An Agni Kai is the firebender's version of a duel, where the main purpose of it is the better firebender will win. Zuko, one of the main characters, was banished from the Fire Nation for refusing to participate in an Agni Kai against his own father, Firelord Ozai. Not fighting was seen as the greatest form of disrespect and weakness. One of the other things that sets the Fire Nation apart from all of the other bending elements is that it doesn't require a source. Air wouldn't either, but Sozin made sure that they wouldn't be a problem. Earth and water benders can be captured, transported, and held far away from anything that they can possibly bend. Firebending's technique demonstrates power, and we see this no better than with Zhao. Admiral Zhao acts like it is his sacred mission to cause as much pain in the world while securing victory for the Fire Nation. He uses firebending to exert as much power over the opposition as he can, and even if that person is another firebender, he will hold no regard for honor, control, or restraint, and he is constantly rewarded for it, being promoted through the ranks of the Fire Nation army. The first complex look that we get at fire as an element comes from the rogue firebending master, Zhang, who has one of my favorite lines about firebending.
But fire is alive. It breathes, it grows. Without the bender, a rock will not throw itself. But fire will spread and destroy everything in its path.
Zhang's whole principle with firebending is one about control and restraint, and we see just how dangerous fire is. We've watched villages being burned to the ground, forests destroyed, and Aang, the Avatar, as the only person who can bend all four elements, originally thought of fire as another skill to add to his arsenal, but he soon learns the danger of firebending when he burns Katara. Zhang believes that it is in fire's nature to consume, and feels like being able to bend fire is a terrible burden and a curse. He even admits that he wishes that he had the power of healing, since all fire can cause is pain. That is such an interesting way to view firebending, since most of the characters we've met so far seem to revel in their ability, and none revel in these abilities more than Firelord Ozai. He uses fire as a symbol of power. Prowess with firebending is a sign of strength, part of which is why he favors Azula to Zuko so much. To him, fire is superior to all other forms of bending and should be treated as such. Uncle Iroh has the most balanced view of fire, as well as all of the other elements. He views fire as power, but he considers the people that hold it as driven, full of desire and will. I would also like to note that Zuko considers him one of the only people capable of also fighting the Fire Lord. He understands that all of the elements are interconnected. He even states that the Fire Nation needs the moon, something that increases a person's ability to waterbend just as much as the Water Tribe. Believing that one must learn from all other corners of the world, not just your own. Understanding others will help you become whole. While only the Avatar can bend all 4 elements, other benders can still learn and adapt other bending principles. We see this extend to other art forms, such as Piandao, a master swordsman, who was training Sokka to become a swordsman since the way of the sword doesn't belong to any one nation. Knowledge of the arts belongs to us all. Princess Azula uses her firebending to instill fear in other people. Her whole tactic is being scary enough so that no one will choose to defy her. She holds power, being in the royal bloodline, and talent by being one of the most powerful firebenders that we see. Her fire is blue, which is unique to her, and she is one of the only people that we see strong enough to generate lightning. The other two being Firelord Ozai and Uncle Iroh, both her relatives and the 2 strongest firebenders. Lightning is precise and deadly, and requires the bender to have peace of mind. It requires no anger or rage. Some describe lightning as cold-blooded fire. Lightning is fire at its purest, most dangerous form. It serves no other purpose than to kill. Which is why it's to no one's surprise that Uncle Iroh invented lightning redirection and created it using waterbending tactics. It's all about letting the power in and then guiding it out of yourself. Iroh would then teach this technique to Zuko, and his relationship with fire is one about change and growth, learning to let go of the idea of fire needing to come from rage and meaning power. As a boy, his talent paled in comparison to Azula's. He was burned by his father's fire, leaving a permanent scar on his face. He travels more with Iroh, who teaches him that there is more to firebending than anger, rage, and power. Zuko fights honorably, he values his crewmates, and he learns from Uncle Iroh's advice. Zuko struggles with his honor, to do the right thing by his father, and also just to do the right thing. Permanently marked as the banished prince, he tries to enjoy a quiet life in Ba Sing Se, but the world doesn't seem ready to let Zuko move on from his heritage. Despite during the crossroads of destiny, he chose to fight by Azula's side, he still didn't tell him that Katara might have been able to heal the Avatar, allowing the Fire Nation to be lulled into a false sense of security. Once Zuko decides to do what's right and abandons the anger that he was holding onto for so long, he loses the ability to firebend how he used to. He ends up seeking out the way of the dragons and the Sun Warriors, where they learn about the original way of firebending. The Sun Warriors also describe fire as alive. Aang even compares his flame to a heartbeat, describing it as the sun, but inside of you. After performing a dance, they are blessed with seeing the beauty of true fire. Fire isn't destruction, it's energy. And if you want to see the real beauty of fire, just watch The Fated Agni Kai.